Welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Craig. I know, Sunday morning. I'll bet right now you're thinking, wow, Craig, Sunday morning, how can my day get any better? Well, I'm sure you probably have to get up and you've got tons of stuff that you need to do, whether it's going to church, doing the honeydews around the yard, or watching some football. Whatever it is, I'm glad that I could be a part of it, that we can make Coffee with Craig a part of your Sunday. So let's talk about our topic for today. Today, we're going to be talking about the gun control debate. Now, a lot of people want to think that the gun control debate largely is about guns, right? It's about, in particular, controlling guns. But the reality is that guns are not the problem. Guns aren't even the debate. If I take my gun out and I set it down, guess what? It's not dangerous. It's not going to shoot anybody, right? It's all about the individual, right? Do you trust the individual with the gun? In particular, what Scott Rasmussen talks about in his commentary at townhall.com is the debate really isn't about even the individual. It's about, do you trust individual Americans more with firearms, or do you trust the government to be the only ones to have firearms? Now, going back to the very beginning of the debate, well, clearly the Founding Fathers did not trust the government to be the only ones with firearms. Thus, the creation of the Second Amendment. They specifically wanted to make sure that we understood that there was a responsibility. You know, that's when they talk about the militia, because keep in mind, when the nation was first founded, it wasn't like there were police, right? It wasn't like there was a standing army, right? The whole point about the initial founding of this country was that they wanted to recognize that each and every individual had not just a right, but they first of all had a responsibility to defend themselves, to defend their family, and to defend their community and their nation, right? They wanted to make sure that we had the ability in order to be able to bear arms, not just against enemies that are foreign, but also against foreign enemies that are domestic, up to and including a tyrannical government. So, if they believe that you needed to be protected from a tyrannical government, then doesn't it stand to reason, just a little bit of logic, that maybe, just maybe, they didn't trust the government to be the only ones with guns? Kind of curious right there, huh? Makes you think. And you know, the thing is that as time has gone on, we have found more and more that fewer and fewer people actually trust the government. When you look at polls that have been put out, right, public trust in the government has gone down year over year over year over year, right? And there's been a few spikes up and down, but overall it's been a downward trend in terms of people's trust in government. In other words, if you don't trust the government with your tax dollars, if you don't trust the government because, well, you're afraid that, well, you don't trust law enforcement. How about those of you out there in the Black Lives Matter movement? If you don't trust law enforcement because you say, well, they're going to discriminate and they're going to, you know, they could potentially shoot me because I'm unarmed simply because of the color of my skin, then why would you want the government to be the only one with firearms? Why would you want the government to be the only ones who can arm themselves? You got to think. Once again, it goes back to that trust in government. Now, what's funny is that even when you look at it on a partisan basis, it's interesting because, you know, when you look at where Republicans and Democrats are on the issue, it's depending on who's president, depends on how much they trust the government. But still, overall, Republican trust in government over time has tended to be less. Republicans generally tend to believe in less government, right? They tend to have a greater faith in local government. Why? Because local government are people that you know. They're people that you see. They're people that are right there down at City Hall, so you know them. You know you can hold them accountable, as opposed to people you send all the way to Washington, D.C., people who become, how shall we say, They develop that beltway mentality, and they don't really know or understand a whole lot, or they forget what it's like to be a common citizen, to be an everyday person. You hear the same thing about people who are in Hollywood, how they get this Hollywood mentality and they lose their focus as to what the real world is going through. Well, that same thing happens in the beltway with that beltway mentality. So we don't trust the government, right? But fundamentally, and I've always said this, the disagreement between conservatives and liberals has to do with the degree to which the government should play a role in our lives. Democrats or liberals tend to believe that governments should play a greater role, right? That if we have a problem, we should go to the government, we should give the government our money and let the government fix it, even though they've rarely been successful in actually fixing anything. Hardly anything. But we're going to trust them to go ahead and fix things, right? Post office, great example. Here it is, you have a monopoly. Nobody else has the right or the ability to be able to deliver mail directly to the mailbox. Yet somehow, they can't make it work. The post office, the Federal Postal Service cannot make it profitable. Interestingly, somehow UPS figured out a way. Somehow FedEx found a way, and they can't even use the mailbox. But somehow they're making a profit. Go figure. That's because government does not do anything efficiently or effectively. They're not particularly good at fixing anything. A great book when it comes to social welfare. It's called The Tragedy of American Compassion. This particular book talked about how before the New Deal, social welfare systems or social welfare was provided at a local level. Right? It was provided by the church and the community that was around you. So, for example, if Johnny didn't have a job, they knew whether or not it was because Johnny couldn't work or Johnny didn't want to work, right? So they knew exactly what was going on. But then all of a sudden the New Deal came, and what happened was it wasn't about whether or not you were in need. It was about how good are you at filling out forms. Do you know the right answers? Do you know which forms you need to answer and how to get those forms to the person and what exact answer is going to get you a yes? Because once you get that yes, that money comes flowing in. Once again, government does nothing efficiently. When it comes to defending us, now let's just be real. When it comes to home defense, I have total respect for law enforcement, but here's the deal, folks. It's not their job to protect you. It says protect and serve, but here's the thing. They cannot protect you because guess what? They can't be everywhere all the time. There is often cases where law enforcement, the police, are minutes away when seconds count. You are your own first responder. You are your own best first responder. Therefore, you being able to arm yourself, whether in your home or in public, gives you the ability to be able and to be prepared to protect and defend yourself. Now, liberals or people who are anti-Second Amendment tend to believe we ought to trust that to the government. We ought to let the government protect us. Even though it's already been proven, there was a study in California was done, the state auditor basically said, at schools, they're not prepared to protect us from active shooter situations, but yet and still, we shouldn't allow people to be able to protect or defend themselves at school during an active shooter situation. In the city of Chicago, you have people who are basically being, we're talking, 59 people a month are being shot in the city of Chicago. Yet, they don't want you to have the ability to be able to defend yourself in the city of Chicago. That's the thing. It's all about trust in government for me. I sum it up. I kind of sum it up this way. I don't know if he actually said this, all right? But I do happen to know that I happen to believe that this is true. Benjamin Franklin said, never trust a government that doesn't trust its citizens with guns. Me, I happen to agree with that sentiment. And I think you guys too. Anyway, folks, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We'll see you live tomorrow, Monday morning. Take care. Have fun. Stay free.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.